All right. So for the warm up, the first part of the warm up is I'm just finding the equivalent fraction. I'm sorry, least common multiples of the sets of values. Oops. And so let's begin. 3 and 4, my least common LCM is 12. 5 and 6, 30. 4 and 6, 12. 3 and 8, 24. 5 and 10, 10. All right, the second part, I'm basically finding equivalent fractions, okay? In order for fractions to be equivalent, if I change either the numerator or denominator, I got to change the other by the same exact value in order for those fractions to be equal. If I don't change them both, then I get a different fraction that has a different value to it. All right, so the way to do that is whatever you multiply the numerator by, you get to do the same thing for the denominator, and vice versa. For the denominator, you got to multiply whatever. If to find an equal denominator, you got to multiply the numerator times the same thing. All right, what does that mean? Okay, so number one, 2/5 equals blank 15ths. So I know that 5 times 3 is 15. So I'm going to have to multiply 2 times 3, and I get 6. All right, so therefore, 2/5 is the same as equal to 6/15. All right, number 3, 8 times 5 gives me 40. So I need to multiply 3 times 5, and I get 15. All right, and the last one, now I'm looking at my numerator. So 5 times 5 equals 25. 6 times 5 equals 30. Okay, so all those fractions, 2/5 is equal to 6/15, 3/8 is equal to 15/40, and 5/6 is equivalent to 25/30. All right, so next. So this week we're going to be adding and subtracting fractions and mixed numbers. That should actually say and mixed numbers. Here's our overview for the week. You can look at it. Today we're going to be adding and subtracting fractions with like and unlike denominators. This could change. Thursday, as of now, is a choice day in our quiz, Thursday and Friday. But there's a possibility that may change. All right. So today's objectives: adding fractions with like denominators. All right, this is what we're doing today. We're going to be adding fractions with like denominators, subtracting fractions with like denominators, and then the same thing with but with unlike denominators. And then last, we're going to do real life application problems. But you'll know by the time I get to it. I may cancel that depending on the time. All right, so one thing before I begin, nothing. So we're going to be doing a review for the rest of the year for the next 3 weeks. These lessons from this point on, they're not designed to really teach you the skills. They're just kind of reminders of how to. They're reminders in practice for you to just kind of improve on the skills that you've already learned. Some of these, like today's lesson, is going back. We've been doing adding and subtracting fractions for 3 years. I know we've been doing it in 4th grade and then continue on in 5th grade. And so actually nothing today is anything that we've done them this year, but nothing that I've introduced to y'all. All right, these are all been, you've learned them prior to coming into 6th grade. So this lesson may be super simple for you, okay? If that's the case, don't do all the extra problems, all right? If you don't need practice, if you got this, you're good, all right? Just do the independent practice, and then but I want you to try all the examples and just make sure you got them. If you're really struggling with this content, all right, there's a lot of stuff that I'm giving you guys, all right? A lot of stuff today. Do what you can. Don't stress yourself out, all right? If you can come away with today with just understanding how to add and subtract fractions with like denominators, and you can't do it with unlike denominators, well, that's fine, okay? I want you to come away with something today. So if all you do is walk away is adding and subtracting fractions with like denominators, that's and mixed numbers is tomorrow. Then that's one step ahead that we weren't prior to the lesson. Okay, so my point is, don't overwhelm yourself with this material. I'm throwing a lot at you, and I'm going quickly. All right, so real quick, just a review and vocabulary notes. All right, I'm going to go through this really quick. What is a fraction? All right, a fraction tells us how many parts we have to a whole. right? So here's an example of a fraction. The numerator is how many parts that I have, and the denominator is how many parts I need to make a whole. Right? So I only have 3 parts out of 4 parts on this example. All right, so here's another example. The pie cut below is broken down into 4 parts. Okay, so if I have 4 parts, this could be my denominator to make one whole. Right now, I happen to have all 4 parts. We haven't ate the pie yet, so my numerator is also going to be 4 because I have 4/4 of that pie. Or we could say, you just say 4/4. We say one whole. Now, let's say that I decide to have one slice of pie. Since I ate one out of the 4 slices, I now only have 3 out of 4 pieces of the pie, and that is a fraction. Right? So I have 3 parts, which is left over, and that's my numerator, and then 4 parts make up my whole. So I have 3/4 of a pie, or we could say 3 out of 4 pieces of the pie. All right. Converting improper fractions into mixed number. Okay. Once again, I'm just going to go over this quickly. This is nothing that I'm introduced to you, so hopefully it looks familiar. So all you're doing when you're converting an improper fraction to a mixed number is doing division. So if I divide 13 divided by 4, because my numerator is going to be my dividend, and 4, my denominator is my divisor, always. 13 divided by 4 is 3 remainder 1. Okay, so what is that saying? So that 3 is my whole. Okay, so that's going to be my whole. That's part of my whole part of the mixed number, 3. Now I have a remainder 1. So when you first started learning division, you guys remember remainders when if for example, 3 times 4 is 12, and then I have that 1 left over. That's the leftover. So we think of a remainder as a leftover. So that remainder is going to be the numerator, so how many parts, and the denominator always stays the same, right? So 13/4. So 3, so 13/4 as a mixed number is 3 1/4. All right, I'm going to stop here. Go ahead and resume once you're finished with the notes, go ahead and resume the part of the lesson with adding fractions with like denominators.